Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Chanda Vallabha Giribharadhari Gopi Chanda Vallabha Giribharadhari Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tiravanachari Jamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Chanda Vallabha Giribharadhari Gopi Chanda Vallabha Giribharadhari Shoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tiravanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Rama Rama Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Jaya Radha Govinda, Radha Govinda, Radha Govinda, Shri Radhe, Jaya Radha Madhava, Radha Madhava, Radha Madhava, Shri Radhe, Jaya Nitya Sachinandana, Gaura Hare Jaya, Nitya Sachinandana, Gaura Hare Jaya, Mancha Tattva Jaya, Mancha Tattva Jaya, Mancha Tattva Jaya, Mancha Jaya, Prabhupada Jaya, Prabhupada Jaya, Prabhupada Jaya, Prabhupada. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajakacharya's Totara Satashi Shimada's Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki, ISKCON Founder Charya Srila Prabhupada Ki, Anantako Vaishnava Vrinda Ki, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki, Gwantaraj Srimad-Bhagavatam Ki, Gaur Premanande, No Vishnupad Krishna Mastaya Duranta Swami Nityanamani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharya. Welcome to Dublin's Tuesday Srimad-Bhagavatam class. We've been continuing our classes on Mondays and Tuesdays, as well as our Sunday program. So this is our humble attempt to keep our Bhagavatam afloat and flowing. On at some stage, we hope to have our Bhagavatam classes every day, online, or most preferably in a location online as well. The Bhagavatam is the most important Bhagavad Gita Bhagavatam. Krishna is there in the Bhagavatam, so when we read and consult the Bhagavatam, then we are in a better situation. We have more likelihood of us staying clear of the modes of nature and staying clear of illusion to whatever degree we can, but to the maximum degree if we study Bhagavatam and if we read it every day. There shouldn't be anything else put in front of that. The problem is we put so many things in front of reading Bhagavatam every day, but actually reading Bhagavatam every day should be in the front of everything else that we do. Because then we can get a proper perspective on what is going on in the world. It gives us that strength of character, not to take time, not to spend time in illusory pursuits or in illusory mental concoctions. Bhagavatam is the best medicine for the soul in Kali Yuga, which is us, whoever's listening, me and the four walls possibly. But it is a very important aspect, very important substance to our whole sojourn here in this material, fleeting body. Okay, without further ado, I'll go on to the Bhagavatam verse, which we're following in line with the Bhagavatam which goes on in Govindadwipa. And we're on Canto 1, Chapter 11, text number 8. So I will read out Sanskrit and English. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad-Bhagavatam, chapter, as I said, Canto 1, Chapter 11, text number 8. Lord Krishna's entrance into Dwarka. Aho sanata bhavatas mayadvayam tavishtapanam apidura darshanam premasmitashnigta nirikshananam pashyema rupam tavasarga saubhagam. Aho sanata bhavatas mayadvayam trivishtapanam apidura darshanam premasmitashnigta nirikshananam pasyema rupam tavasarva sobhagam. Aho sanata bhavatas mayadvayam travishtapanam apitura darshanam premasmitasnigda nirikshananam pasyema rupam tavasarva sobhagam. Aho, oh, it is our good luck, sanata, to be under the protection of the Master. Bhavata, by your good self, sma, as we have become, yatvayam, as we are, travishtapanam, of the demigods, api, also, duradarshanam, very rarely seen, premasmita, smiling with love, snigda, affectionate, nirikshana anam, face looking in that mode, pasyema, let us look, rupam, beauty, tava, your sarva, all, sobhagam, auspiciousness. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Oh, it is our good luck that we have come again under your protection by your presence. For your Lordship rarely visits even the denizens of heaven. Now it is possible for us to look into your smiling face, which is full of affectionate glances. We can now see your transcendental form, full of auspiciousness. The Lord, in his eternal personal form, can be seen only by the pure devotees of the pure devotees. The Lord is never impersonal, but he is in the but he is the supreme absolute personality of Godhead, possible to be visited by devotional service face to face, which is impossible to be done even by the denizens of higher planets. When Brahmaji and other demigods want to consult Lord Vishnu, the plenary portion of Lord Krishna, they have to wait on the shore of the ocean of milk, where Lord Vishnu is lying on white land, Svetadvipa. This ocean of milk and the Svetadvipa planet are the replica of Vaikuntha within the universe. Neither Brahmaji nor the demigods like Indra can enter the island of Svetadvipa, but they can stand on the shore of the ocean of milk and transmit their message to Lord Vishnu, known as Shirodaksha Vishnu. Therefore, the Lord is rarely seen by them, but the inhabitants of Dwarka, because of their being pure devotees, without any tinge of the material contamination of fruitive activities and empiric philosophical speculation, can see him face to face by the grace of the Lord. This is the original state of the living entities, and can be attained by reviving our natural constitutional state of life, which is discovered by devotional service only. Amaganati Verandasya Jana Jana Chalakaya Chaksharan Malitam Yana Tasmai Shri Gurve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Mano Bishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupagadam Ayam Dadati Svapatantikam Namo Vishtubadai Krishna Bastai Vilesh Mani Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityanamani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Bacharini Nirvashesha Shanivadi Vanchikalpa Turubhyascha Kripa Sinave Bachapati Talam Bhavanigo Vaishnavevo Namo Namaha. The topics that we're discussing here, of course, are incredibly important topics, which is why so many people are here listening to them. But all joking aside, they are the most important topics that you could ever want to discover. I mean, so many people are going to consult the newspapers today. They're going to consult the news on many occasions, possibly. Sometimes I do that myself. And trying to get information about what's actually going on. But this is actually what's going on. The original state of the living entity can be attained by reviving our natural and constitutional state of life, which is discovered by devotional service only. So then, why isn't everybody doing devotional service? Well, in one sense they are. It's explained that everybody is serving Krishna. In the sense that everyone follows my path in all respects, Krishna says. So in that sense, everybody is doing devotional service, but unfortunately, some of it is not actually devotional service. It is service in the modes of ignorance, basically. So devotional service means deliberate. It means it is done with God in mind, with Krishna in mind. It is, you're doing it for Krishna. It is a consideration or an understanding that we're not here on our own to fulfill our own sensual desires, but we're here, or we're existing because we're part of Krishna, we're part and parcel of Krishna, and we have a specific function in relation to Krishna. And what that function is, Krishna is telling us here, or at least he's telling us how to discover that here. We're part and parcel of Krishna, a servant of the servant of the servant of Krishna. That's who we are. Who we actually are, like we can say that's a broad description, like we can say Mr. Davis is my name, Mr. Davis. But I have a personal name, Martin. And if you want to know me more, then maybe come and live with me. But maybe that's not such a good idea for everybody here. But anyway, but if you really want to get to know, you got to know a person's, you could say idiosyncrasies, or you can get the person, you can know what the person's like by actually living with them. So in order for us to do that, we have to find out who Krishna is. So we have to find out how to live with Krishna, and this is how we live with Krishna, by studying Bhagavatam, because it is full of transcendental messages by which we can get in touch with Krishna and we can discover Krishna. It is a blissful situation, it's a blissful life by to develop this relationship with Krishna. And this is what Prabhupada is saying here. It says, face to face. Therefore, the Lord is rarely seen by them, but the inhabitants of Dwarka, because of their being pure devotees, without any tinge of material contamination, of fruit of activities and empiric philosophical speculation, can see him face to face by the grace of the Lord. Anya bilashita sulam jnana karma danavitam anukulina krishnanu shilanam bhaktar uttama. And that means without any tinge of fruit of activity or mental speculation or impersonal understanding of God, which is the tendency of the living entity to try to understand things in this world, to use one's particular intellect in such a way that it is valuable in understanding the whole nature of God, where in fact the only way in which we can understand God is through submissive oral reception. That it means that hearing from the higher authorities about the nature of God, because our ability to come to that ourselves is zero. It is nothing. Note, you can't do it. Sorry, all you great philosophers of old, of the great 20th century revival of existentialism and etc. You cannot know God, unfortunately, by the methods that you were choosing to try to know God. It cannot be done. But through submissive oral reception, we can actually get to understand what God is like and who God is. And we can then, therefore, start to develop that relationship. It's a very loving relationship, as we can see here, face to face. And we can hear the residents of Dwarka, they're completely elated, they're completely in bliss because they're seeing Krishna coming back to them. They're actually, Krishna's coming back into Dwarka and his entrance is there. And they're absolutely, completely in bliss. I mean, I don't know if there's any comparison we can have. Actually, there's one comparison I can just about remember. It was in 1990 when Ireland got into the quarterfinals of the World Cup. They didn't win the World Cup, but they got into the quarterfinals. And then the team came back after the jaunt in Italy, and 500,000 people, I think it was, or maybe 1 million, some huge amounts of people lined the streets in Dublin from the airport into the city centre, just to worship the heroes coming home. And everyone was so excited to see them. And sorry, that's the only comparison I can think of at the minute, where such a huge public excitement was there. But that's the difference between then and now, you know. Then it was people were, as we can hear from the Bhagavatam, they had much greater capacity to appreciate the finer things in life. Kali Yuga progresses, it's said that one loses the ability to understand the finer things in life. It's not to say that we don't try to experience some of the finer things in life, even in Kali Yuga, but our ability to do so is reduced significantly. So therefore we take great joy in a football match rather than in God returning to his place in Dwarka. Even when Srila Prabhupada was growing up, people would spend a lot of time hearing about the Ramayana, the Mahabharata, and the Srimad-Bhagavatam. These were the stories that were. This was the excitement that was there. That was one of the things I remember Sri Ramaswamy mentioned to the devotees in New Raj Dam, was that, you know, don't think we're going to have kind of movies every night, or we're going out to get pizza and have pizza parties and ice cream, and I think they do have a pretty good time on that level anyway, the prasadam level. But he was saying that our enjoyment is going to be kirtan and hearing. That's actually what when you're coming here to the farm, this is where you have to search philosophy, kirtan, hearing. And of course, they have a very good time because of also from There's very good social interaction. And we're noticing that more today. We have some of them, even during this lockdown, we have people who are on reading groups, and the reading groups are providing a sangha, great association for a lot of people. Because we're discussing the philosophy, and these are ways in using the social media with which we can actually make some benefit in spiritual life. There are many ways of using social media where we don't make benefit in spiritual life, or gaming, or any of those different activities that you might do with your either computer or your phone. Or I'm always very disappointed when I'm coming home, when I'm seeing it sometimes on the bus, somebody playing snakes and ladders or some game. Sometimes I just happen to look over and it's some little game going on, anyway, without being too judgmental. But it is a little disappointing, actually, when you could be actually reading Srimad-Bhagavatam, or listening to the wisdom of the sages, even. So there are many different ways in which we can use social media, etc. But I'm just getting back to the comparison between these devotees when the Krishna is coming back, and the devotees today, or people today, what they take their pleasure in. There is quite a vast array of difference, and we should take that into account when we're spreading Krishna consciousness. And the other point that's mentioned here in the purport is that even great demigods don't get to see Krishna face to face. I mean, we have Lord Brahma, who meditates and hears Krishna's telling to him tapa, and eventually he gets to get some understanding of who God is. But when he wants to see God, he can't actually just go and automatically get God to turn up. He has to go into the ocean, by the ocean of milk, and then and sit down and then start to meditate, and then Krishna reveals his mind to him there. It's the word that's used is, it's very rare. I think this is what he says. Your Lordship rarely visits even the denizens of heaven. So that's what's said in the purport. That's the Dwarka residents. They say that they're very fortunate because Krishna is actually visiting them. But it's very rare that he visits the denizens of heaven. Now we see that. I mean, I'm reading a section in the Bhagavatam at the moment wherein Aditi prays to Krishna. She performs the Payovrata vow, which was a vow that her husband Kasyapa asked her to say, and in which case she would get the Lord's favour. Now it was a little fruitive, I must say, but Aditi being the mother of Krishna, Krishna was actually was quite happy that she was calling to him for help, and she wanted help because her sons, the demigods, had been displaced from their residence on the heavenly planets by Bali Maharaj. Bali Maharaj, who is the king of the demons, of course, but also a great devotee. But he followed, and the demons followed the order of Sukracharya, their spiritual master, and therefore they were able to dismiss the demons. So the demigods from their planet. So at that time, the demigods prayed to their spiritual master to see what they would do, and they prayed to Lord Krishna actually, and Krishna said to them, well, at the moment the demons are in the ascendancy, so therefore you cannot really do very much, but what you can do is you can pray, and I will come and I will be able to sort the situation out for you. So Krishna actually came at that time, and he came in the form of Lord Vamanadev. And even Lord Brahma was very, very, at that time he got a glimpse of Krishna. So it's very rare in that sense that the demigods even get to see Krishna. So then what to speak of us? We're the tiny little living entities in Kali Yuga. Yuck, I love that verse, but I can never repeat it. Kali Desha De Rajan Muktis. But basically the one good effect in Kali Yuga is that the holy name is there. So through chanting the holy name and through kirtan, constant if possible, folks. Then sometimes I put on the heating in the house, and it's, it can be timed, but I'm a bit of a rascal because I put it on constant because I couldn't be bothered setting the timing. But that, unfortunately, that uses up some of my electricity, so I have to be careful. But when you put the chanting constant on, in fact, you don't use up any of your electricity, or you don't have to pay a bigger bill. In fact, you create more energy for yourself to be Krishna conscious if you're constantly chanting, or if you're constantly performing devotional service. So that's just to show the difference between material living and spiritual living. In material living, you cannot put it on constant onto your electrical system for heating. You cannot put it on constant because you'll have to pay a big bill. But in spiritual system, if you put the constant on, constantly chanting, constantly looking at ways of hearing about Krishna, constantly listening to lectures, constantly performing devotional service, constantly looking for ways to spread Krishna consciousness, then that will increase your bhakti. So that will give you an opportunity to see Krishna more face to face. So you got it? So constant on the spiritual level. Then you can see Krishna face to face. And what does that mean, seeing Krishna face to face? Well, it explains it in the Shastra that if we actually continually try to reach that level of praying to Krishna, of being in Krishna's presence, then we will actually raise our own vibration, so that we will actually start to get some inclination of what the spiritual world is about. It means that our transmitter starts to becomes fit to be able to take in the transmission that is going on now at this very minute in the spiritual world, because Krishna is in every atom. He is in every atom, fully in every atom. Krishna, with all his royal paraphernalia, everything is in every atom. He's vibrating now at this very second in every atom in which I'm speaking to you, and who's ever listening, even if it's the four walls. And I am listening to it myself, at least. And Krishna is there. And therefore, I can actually enter into the presence of Krishna in that way. And therefore, I can start to become accustomed to what it is like in the spiritual world, so that at the point of death, I can actually make some tangible progress by the progress that I made here in this lifetime now. So this is why personally I practice Krishna consciousness, because I am getting some inclination of what it is, what the spiritual world is about, and that is what is spoken about here in this purport by Prabhupada. Prabhupada is so broad-reaching that he actually brings it right back to us. He talks about the denizens of Dwarka, not even the denizens of heaven, but he's speaking about the Dwarka residents and how they're experiencing Krishna face to face. But then he says, the Lord is never impersonal. It can be seen only by pure devotees, and it is possible to be visited by devotional service face to face, which is impossible to be done even by the denizens of the higher planets. So this is what the vision of the pure devotee is doing for us. He's bringing us here to the spiritual dimension, and he's giving us, he's propping us up, and he's allowing us to see this dimension. And he's like the pure via medium. He's not saying, look at me, look at me, look at me. No, he's saying, look at Krishna, look at all of Krishna's paraphernalia, look at all of Krishna's friends, look at what they're doing. You too can be like this. Get in there. Prabhupada, we used to have a hurling, that's a game we play, hurling. We used to have this mentor, he said, get in there, get in, go on. So Prabhupada is like the supreme mentor, to tell us to keep on at it, keep doing it, keep trying to reach that platform, keep reaching out, keep stretching. I have a particular nature, which is, unfortunately, it is somewhat lazy. It was through my view on it anyway, is my earlier youth, I didn't spend time developing spiritual life, and in fact I spent time creating the inauspicious circumstances and inauspicious patterns, which make it more difficult to experience spiritual life later on in life. So if that's a lesson for anybody, please take it. But actually now in spiritual life, there's no impediment ultimately, even no matter where we've been. Our great colleague Tulsi Priya Prabhu made this point the other day that when he was talking about devotees not being able to, being maybe seemingly very fallen. You might see some person on the street, they may be very fallen, but just like that, they can take the spiritual life. Just like that, they can take the spiritual life. So nobody's fallen. We're all in the same boat. Nobody's actually fallen. Everybody's fallen, shall we say. So we can take the spiritual life with the help of the vision of someone like Srila Prabhupada, the way he's presenting it here. So it's reviving our natural and constitutional life, which is discovered by devotional service. We're discovering. We're on a voyage of discovery. So it's an exciting voyage of discovery. We're going to discover amazing things in spiritual life. Just absolutely amazing things. Well, almost, I was going to say unbelievable things, but once we experience them, then we'll see that they are believable. But it is an unlimited store of spiritual impressions to do with the activities of the devotees in the spiritual world. And we are one of those devotees. That is the reality. We are one of them. But we have to remember which one we were, what we were doing, how to get there. We remember it basically by hearing about the denizens of the spiritual world, because then we start to understand what are the characteristics of them. And the Prabhupada says that we discover it. It's our natural and constitutional state of life. The Prabhupada's words are incredible. The state of life, which is discovered, what's the last word? Which is discovered by devotional service only. So, how do we get to this devotional service? Surely this is worth getting. It is worth getting. It's the only thing worth getting. So, how do we get to this devotional service? By hearing. Hearing is the big one. Hearing and chanting. These are the two big ones. Remembering, smaranam. Padasevanam, serving the lotus feet. Doing some deity worship. Archanam, deity worship. Vandanam, prayer, praying to Krishna. Dasyam, serving the lotus feet of Krishna. Atmanivedam, of course, is complete surrender. But it starts through hearing and submissive oral reception. All we have to do is sit in front of somebody speaking about Bhagavatam. Find someone to talk about Bhagavatam and plonk yourself in front of and listen and hear. The Prabhupada said, my only question to my spiritual was how can I serve you? So we have to find these people and just serve them. And the servant of the servant of the servant. Perform devotional service. Now, the first person that we have to preach to is ourselves. This is very, very important. Just preach to ourselves. So which is why I'm giving this class. Just preach to ourselves, because if we become a devotee, then there's some hope that we can help other people become a devotee. And that's why Krishna acts true as devotee. So let's be one of the devotees that Krishna acts true. Isn't that a nice thing to do? Let's be one of the devotees who are giving out all of this transcendental literature. It's such like our whole parampara, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Gaurkishore Das Babaji, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati. The instruction he gave to Prabhupada was, if you ever get money, print books. So why not become part of that whole mission of giving books out to Krishna, books of Krishna out to people in general. Let's just forget about it. Don't even think about it. We don't have to... we don't have to get into a mental thing about it. Well, the books have to be this way and we have to see this person that way and that way. Okay, there may be room for something like that. But just do the activity and then ask, Just do because when you do the activity, then you'll experience the bliss. That's the reality. You do the activity and you'll experience the bliss. You don't have to mental about it for years and years and tens of years. Just somehow or other, give out books and then you'll feel the bliss. And then you'll know the books. If you read the books, you'll know the books, obviously, But preach to yourself first. Preach to yourself first. Then you'll have the potency to do it. Then you're in the parampara, and then you're in the rasa dance, because that's Radharani's. she wants to put other people in front of her. She says that these are my devotees, Krishna. So this is the Prabhupada confirmed this in a letter to Hare Krishna, great devotee who did all the book distribution in the beginning, Rameshwar. So he gave this, he gave that instruction because there was a confusion. Oh yeah, do we not have to go into some height? No, on Prabhupada's instructions, by giving out these books, we will feel this bliss because we're performing pure devotional service. So, and not that you become proud or anything like this. It's like Prabhupada is giving us this information. Now it is possible to look into your smiling face, which is full of affectionate glances. That's what they say. Now it is possible for this is the denizens of heaven. They're looking into Krishna's smiling face. That is where we want to get to. Prabhupada promised us this. He's telling us because he's promised us because he's seeing it himself. Prabhupada is seeing this constantly. He's looking at Krishna's smiling face. So we start off by Bhagavatam 1 and 2. This is the lotus feet of Krishna. We serve the lotus feet of Krishna. We give Bhagavatam 1 and 2 as much as we can. We hear 1 and 2 as much as we can. Become totally expert in 1 and 2. Bhagavatam 1 and 2. Because Prabhupada spent his early days the first thing he did is he translated 1. This is what we're reading now. This is what Prabhupada wrote 60 years ago. And he wanted us then, can you imagine, 60 years ago, Prabhupada has this knowledge and he's sitting in Vrindavan and he's thinking about giving it to people like me and people like, in this Western world. Because the knowledge isn't as clearly available. Because in 60s, 70s, there was so much degradation, the hippie movement, basically. So much there was a desire for some clarity, some clarity of thoughts. There was an honesty, a searing honesty, which was I see sometimes in the punks or in the goths or different people I meet sometimes. There's an honesty there, but there is also a degradation, unfortunately. But Prabhupada had set this up in India at that time in a very sanctified place, a holy place of Vrindavan. And he was getting this all together to give to us, and he was meditating on it then. The reason I'm saying that is that subsequent to that, in the last 60 years, so much degradation has taken place. Practically Kali Yuga has accelerated, according to all accounts. And I even remember reading some Christian texts from the 1920s, 1910, 1920s. I can't remember what it was. I think it was I was sitting in a dentist's room, and I was waiting for a long time. And there was these books that were written in 1910, 1920, and they were Christian books. And you could see that what they were talking about then was much more pure than what I had listened to when I was growing up in a Christian situation. Maybe it was there then, but the actual honesty and purity and the link with God was there. I could hear it, I could see it. These people couldn't be writing this way unless they were having experience of God. So in that time, in that 60 years, things had changed. And then in another 60 years, things have drastically changed. I mean, in the last 60 years, we've had, of course, not even the last 10, 15 years, 20 years, we have the computers. We've had the smartphones, the iPhones getting more and more progressive. We have all this gaming, there's social media. All of these things have ploughed in and to distract people from submissive oral reception. There was a devotee who was giving class recently, and it was an Indian devotee who was giving this class over in America. And by the end of the start of the class and the end of the class, somebody put up their hand and said they had a fact checker. And they said, there's 17 times that you're what you've said here, I am not actually that sure of, because my fact checker tells me that this isn't exactly the way it is. So, submissive oral reception kind of goes out the window in that particular scenario. So therefore there is there are other methods of trying to spread Krishna consciousness, because we do need to get into this league of spreading Krishna consciousness with others. We need to be heard, and we need to hear others as well, because we have to see where we're all at, basically, so we can actually help each other. And sorry. Another major difference as well, which I read in the newspapers yesterday, was since the start of the lockdown in Ireland, there's been 17 million. It's either 17 or 70, I'm not sure, but it's a huge antidepressants being prescribed for people. So there's people now who cannot get by without antidepressants, and maybe even some people who are listening to this talk may be taking antidepressants. But this is the nature of the world in which we're living in, and how people are trying to get some view of this massive, incredible light of the spiritual world, which is there. They're seeing through the eyes of these, so much prohibitive understanding. And people, in my time, people thought that they had to take drugs to actually see properly, to actually see how things really are. You have to take drugs to do that. So these are all the things which are preventing the living entity today from making spiritual advancement. So just to conclude, we're trying to see Krishna face to face. Prabhupada is explaining very clearly how we do that. We are trying to become clear ourselves, but also we want to get onto the platform of being able to spread it to others. Being able to spread it to others is different now than it may have been so many years ago. Even some of the traditional methods that were adapted in the 60s, 70s and 80s are not working the same way like they used to. Like even for Sunday class, we would used to have hundreds of people would come in Dublin, but not now. Maybe, okay, we have a smaller place, but maybe 50, 60 people would come. There's a kind of a different mood afterwards. People are not so inquisitive or inquiring. So therefore, the whole method of exchanging or sharing this knowledge with others has to be revisited. So this is I'll just conclude on this point. Probably this is where the class could begin, or another class could begin, is that going back to the purport, we're in a very fortunate position. We have got the ability to link in with the purports from A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. We're in a very fortunate position. We are able to put it into our own lives and experience incredible levels of realization which are coming from the spiritual dimension. This is available to us on a daily, minute-by-minute basis. So we're in an incredibly fortunate position. Now the position is to try to be able to share that with others, because that is the nature of the spiritual energy, is that it has to be shared. It cannot be bottled away, and especially when you're coming in the line of Srila Prabhupada. He's given it to us to share to others. That's our debt to him. So therefore we have to use this time and use our every conceivable piece of ingenuity that we have in us, and to hear how to spread this message to others, but also to use our own ingenuity to give this spiritual light to others, to share it. And with that, I'll close. And thank you very much. Even if maybe somebody might even listen to it afterwards, that would be good. But this is a small attempt, anyway, from my side, to take up that task. And I'm open to any suggestions anyone who's there who might listen, that we can actually get together and actually spread this message even further. Gantaraj Srimad-Bhagavatam ki. Thank you.